Christopher Cross is a singer-songwriter from San Antonio, Texas. He shot to fame in 1980 with his debut album. It was a pretty big deal at the time because he won 4 Grammys. I think he's the only artist ever to achieve that. Everybody would have heard his music over the years. Sailing is probably one of his most famous tracks, and so is Ride Like the Wind. He has a falsetto voice and also plays guitars. But this album is approaching the 40-year mark. It was released in, some people say early 1980, but 1979 is actually written on the sleeve. What's special about this is that it featured a lot of session players, the cream of the session world. Ride Like the Wind has got Rob Muir on the synthesizer, Michael O'Martian, Michael McDonald sings backup. He was pretty popular at the time, still is, but he was at the Doobie Brothers. So yeah, it was a pretty big deal. The record sold truckloads. It's one of the very first albums that I actually had on a blank cassette, and I remember listening to this in 1980 when I was a kid. The songs are complex, the musicianship is complex on the songs. The songs are quite good, very, very well written. This was a big deal at the time. Eric Johnson features on the solo guitar on Minstrel Gigolo, one of the highlights of the album. Larry Carlton also plays solo on a few tracks. The Light Is On is one. Background vocals, Don Henley, another Texan. J.D. Souther of Eagles fame. It's a pretty big deal. He was an unknown, and he had all these guys on his album, obviously with a bit of push from Warner Brothers. There's a lot of interesting stories of Christopher Cross in the 70s. One was that he stood in for Richie Blackmore of Black Sabbath at a gig in San Antonio. Believe it or not, when he was young. Things like that. And there's also, he seems to know everybody in the music business. He bumped into Jimmy Page at one stage, and he was looking for a high watt amplifier, because he couldn't get them in the US. So Page said to him, give me $700. So he gave him $700, and he thought he'd never see it again. And lo and behold, a month or two later, he came home one day, and the high watt amp and cabinet was standing in his living room. So this is the debut. Like I said, it was very big. Never Be the Same was a big hit. Spinning is kind of a slow track. I always thought that is just a little bit meandering. But it's Beach Boys influences as well, with Poor Shirley, which I thought would have made a great single. Christopher Cross himself actually plays lead guitar, and he's actually a very good guitar player. I remember these are great. WEA Top 30. Yeah, I bought this in 1988 in a second-hand shop, and I've had it on cassette. I've had it on CD. I've had a CD edition that I bought, and it has a gold disc. Nothing fancy, it's just Warner Brothers Top 40 or something, gold discs. They did it with a lot of artists. So the debut was approaching 40, so I wonder will there be a kind of a rehash or something. Album number 2 came in 1983, so there was a bit of a gap between albums. 3 years is a long time. Could probably kill the momentum a little bit. In 1981, he actually released Arthur's Theme from Arthur, the movie, with Dudley Moore. He actually performed it with Dudley as well at some awards ceremony in 1981. Two of them played together. And that was a massive track. Everybody knows that one. And All Right was another track that was released before this album came out. So album number 2 is a little bit more complex. Again, produced by Michael O'Martian. Songs are a little bit more complex. More synthesizers on them as well. But it works. It doesn't particularly sound very 80s by any means. Again, there's a lot of pro musicians on this one. Michael McDonald again, backing vocals on No Time for Talk. Baby Says No, additional vocals by Carl Wilson. Christopher was very good friends with Carl Wilson from the Beach Boys. It was a duet with Carla Bonoff, What Am I Supposed to Believe? And then you've got Deala McGinn, backing vocals by Don Henley and J.D. Souther again. Guitar on that by Jay Graydon. Steve Gadd plays drums on some of these tracks. The drumming legend. Think of Laura. I think it's a track about a friend of his that had actually a girl who got hit by a stray bullet. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I heard. It was used as a theme for some hospital show in the US as well, and it became a hit. All Right features Michael McDonald on backing vocals and guitar by Toto's Steve Lukather. Talking in My Sleep has backing vocals by Art Garfunkel. The names are big. Nature of the Game, again, Don Henley, J.D. Souther. Side 2 on this one is a bit mellow. Talking in My Sleep, Nature of the Game, they're kind of acoustic type songs. Nature of the Game is an excellent song. Long World is the only one on this album that I kind of think is kind of a little bit weak and a little bit kind of a bit too light. And Words of Wisdom, very good track. Solo guitar by Christopher Cross. So you got all the giants here. Again. And at this stage I think his star was starting to wane a bit by 84. He did a song for the Los Angeles Olympics, alright. 1985 is Every Turn of the World. This is a kind of a rockier affair. The car here is a racing car being driven by Christopher Cross himself. VW is on the car. In the video for Every Turn of the World, it shows him racing around the place. He was actually a big racing fan, and he was one of the owners of some special BMW coupe as well in the early 80s that he ordered from BMW, an orange one. It was auctioned off in the States recently. He was into his cars. This one is, the drums are big on it. Every Turn of the World, Charm the Snake. It's a bit more rocky. I Hear You Call, Don't Say Goodbye. They're a bit kind of dull. Let's See What Really Matters is a very good song. Love is Love is Any Love is Love in Any Language is a bit kind of, it would fit in well to Miami Vice or something like that. The Islands and stuff. Swing Street, kind of, it's okay. Complex arrangements, lots of synths. Love Found a Home, again, very Beach Boys like. That Girl, it's kind of a throwaway rocker. And Open Your Heart, it's another good song. Look, he's got MTV on the side of the car down here. So it's kind of hard to see some of the so tattered. Actually hard to see what's written down here. Not as many guests on this one. Backing vocals. Not really people I don't really know. Yeah. That's it really. So this one was kind of not a big one by any means. The star was kind of waning at this stage, but he continued to tour. And this brings us up to 1988, Back of My Mind. This one is quite synthetic. It was his last for Warner Brothers. There is a Greatest Hits that came out in 1992. And there's been some more ever since on Warner. But he changed labels after this to Arista. Back of My Mind, there were some good songs on this. He was kind of his time at this stage. Someday, very, very typical Christopher Cross fare. Never Stop Believing. Could have been on any of the other albums. Swept Away. Any Old Time, that's a good one. That's a kind of a country song. I Will Take You Forever. Again, the ballad. A lot of the songs are love songs. She Told Me So. I'm not really gone on that. Back of My Mind is a good song. I'd Be Alright. It's kind of got this African swing on it. Don't really like that one. Alibi is quite good. Again, typical Christopher Cross fare. Just One Look. It's, I won't say it's patchy, but it's, you've kind of heard it before. Again, produced by Michael Omartian. And there is duets on this one. Yeah, I can't really even see this properly. I'll tell you, going blind in my old age. I Will Take You Forever is a duet with Francis Raphael. Any Old Time. Yeah, I like. Yeah, the guests are less, obviously. He was well into his career at this stage. A Reprise label, very nice. Yeah, this is actually still Warner Brothers, but Reprise. Whereas the earlier ones were the standard Warner Brother label of the time. Yeah, so that's it as far as the vinyl goes. Then there's the CDs. Just try to throw them into the mix. This is my second copy of this. I had an original one from, oh god, I think I bought it in the late 80s, 89, and it had a gold tinted disc. That's it on CD. I think this was actually a digital recording back in 79. Yeah, I think it was one of the early digital recordings. The album is very well arranged. Michael Omartian is a fantastic arranger. And Cross's other friend, Rob Muir, he was killed recently when a car hit him outside a studio, sadly. Another page. This is one of the Target CDs. The much sought after Warner Brothers Target CDs. These are early 80s. Some of them go for huge money. Depends on the artist, obviously. Oh yeah, this is really naff. Everything is pink, everything's flamingo. He's got a flamingo theme running through a lot of this stuff. I'm not sure who the girl is. The woman could be his wife. He was married to a woman, Roisin. Divorced in the late 80s. And he got married again. Unusual guy. He doesn't really look like a rock star or anything like that. Return of the World. You could pick these up really cheap. I mean, the vinyl you probably get for €1 a piece. CDs are cheap. And this, I can't remember when I bought this. I'm sure I have it since 1990 or something. I saw it was in a sale. It was still a lot of money back then, you know. CDs were expensive back then, and when they were reduced, they felt cheap, but they were still expensive. Could have been something like £10 or something, which was a lot of money back then. Then there's the Best Of. That's from 1992. This actually exists on vinyl as well. I don't have it, but I should go and buy it. It was released in Germany, I think, in places like that. Nasty disc, terrible print. You can barely see it, you know, it's just done in one shot. Very, very poor from Warner Brothers. There's nothing inside it. You'll see this in most music shops for something like €6. 12 tracks. It's not enough really. Funny choice as well of songs. Ride Like the Wind, Alright Someday. That's Okay, Love Is Love in Any Language. That shouldn't really be on it. Like Words of Wisdom, that's a good one. So You'll Be Mine. Sailing, Artist Theme, that's good. Any Old Time, that's good. Charm the Snake. Again, there are album tracks from the mid 80s from Every Time in the World. Every Time in the World is on it. That Girl, you know, again, kind of pop rock. He's got much better songs that could have been on this. Bizarre track listing, really. And this one is from the early noughties. There's a few versions of this came out. I think some of them have got Ride Like the Wind remix, Desperate, Ghastly. They did the same with I think Doobie Brothers' Greatest Hits. They pop in a house track with a sample and it's horrible. This is nice. There's also gold covers on it. So you got the 4 albums are here, 4 Warner Brother albums. This is remastered as well, I think. His albums haven't been remastered. I've never seen the first one or the second one or the page. They just don't exist. I don't think they've ever been remastered. They've been reissued, I'd say 80s, maybe early 90s. That's about it. You never see them. This is probably better, more comprehensive. It's got better tracks on it. There's a couple of extras here as well. A Chance for Heaven, I think that's the one from the Olympics. Not a great song by any means. And there's another one, Loving Strangers. That's from a movie in '86, I think. I don't know who was in that movie. Tom Hanks or somebody, I can't remember. And there's a couple of extra tracks on this as well. In the Blink of an Eye, Back of My Mind. They are from Rendezvous, which was his 1992 album for BMG. Areola. I thought it was Arista. I said Arista earlier. Slapped me in the knuckles, kicked me in the head. I was wrong, but now I'm right. So yeah, and then Open Up My Window. I think he did an album called Window. He's released another 4 or 5 albums since, and I think he's got his own label now. Just to throw this in, it's Rendezvous. This was the one on Areola. I also have this on vinyl. It's not bad. He kind of harked back to the first album with some of it. Rendezvous is typical Christopher Cross fare. Deputy Dan is probably one of the best tracks on it. It's a bit like Steely Dan. There's definitely a nod to Asia on this, without a doubt. Night Across the World, that's a little bit like Ride Like the Wind, and he's using analog synthesizers on it. Angry Young Men is good. In the Blink of an Eye is typical, you know, it could be from any time in the 80s really. Isn't It Love is kind of a funk joint. Not one of my favourites. Nothing Will Change, that's about world peace. There's kind of a chant at the end, Fee Fi Fo Fum, I smell the blood of whatever the hell, whatever nationality. Bit cringy, Drifting Away. Can't really remember that, it's Fisherman's Tale. They're kind of mellow, yeah. But top track in this is Deputy Dan, great playing on it. Jeff Porcaro plays on a couple of these tracks. would have been some of his last sessions before he passed away in 1992. Tragically, loss of one of the best drummers of all time. And Vinnie Colaiuta, who plays with Sting, is also on this. So yeah, it's worth grabbing. You'll pick it up for next to nothing if you're into Christopher Cross. He's kind of got a bit of a resurgence again. People are kind of acknowledging him now. God, he's been around for a long time. You know, there's rumours he was a roadie for Fleetwood Mac as well. That's not entirely true. I think he was around when the British Fleetwood Mac went to America. You know, and that was a small part. I think he drove them to the airport or something like that. I'm not sure, but he was never a roadie for Fleetwood Mac, as in Stevie Nicks, Lindsey Buckingham, the American British Fleetwood Mac. Yeah, so it's kind of a myth. But yeah, interesting guy, and like I said, he doesn't look like a typical rock star at all. You know, you pass him in the street. So there he is. That's Christopher Cross on, well, Warner Brothers. It's kind of a bit flawed now, the video, because it goes into different labels and stuff. But that's it really, that doesn't really matter. And yeah, so that's it. Check them out. You know, the debut has some great guitar solos, and everybody is into Larry Carlton, and Eric Johnson is one of the most talked about guitarists on the planet, because everybody tries to sound like him when you go onto YouTube looking at demos. So yeah, and he's also a Texan. So yeah, check him out. Christopher Cross, great singer, great guitar player, great songwriter, and I think he's a live album from about 4 or 5 years ago. 2 CD, DVD. I must get that. Exceptional playing. He kind of rearranges the old tracks with top tier players, and it's very interesting. Good music. Yacht rock, they used to call it back in the day, you know. Yeah. So there you go. Anyway, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. Take care.